Hello and welcome to Business 7. Our spotlight tonight on uranium as well as the tourism sector. Please stay tuned, you don't want to. Uranium is big news internationally. That, of course, is great news for Namibia as it's one of the world's largest uranium producers. It is the backbone of mining at the moment, and mining is driving economic growth. Last week, Forsyth Metals had their first blast at their Valencia project in the Namib, and our colleagues at the coast, Irongo, took this video for us.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We must change the way of doing business. We must change the way we treat investors. Because our conduct are actually chasing them away by frustrating them for only spending, and nothing comes of that spending. But from today's jubilation, that at least that bottleneck is now opened. The 50 to 100 Namibians that were hanging around here, not doing anything but getting paid, can redouble or even 3 times. That is what this country needs. Employment. So that they can sustain themselves and their families, not by giving them free food. They want to buy themselves by giving them job, even if it is little that they earn. But they earn for themselves to look after their families.
Entries are now open for the Republican Bridal Couple of the Year competition. Couples married between 1 March and 31 May 2024 have until 31 July of this year to enter the first round of the Republican Bridal Couple of the Year competition. One of the top 10 couples will be chosen from this pool to participate in the final, taking place in May 2025. To better your chance of reaching the final, enter now. To enter, simply WhatsApp #bridal2025 to 085 785 6231 and follow the on-screen instructions, or scan this QR code.
The government's decision to introduce new visa requirements for 33 countries effective the 1st of April next year, is continuing to cause an uproar internationally, also in the media there. Now, we're leading with this story in the printed version of Business 7 today. If you haven't got your hard copy, you can read the article on our website, that is marketwatch.com.na, or you can click the story on our social media. You'll find us on LinkedIn and on Facebook as well as Twitter or X. We spoke to Gita Petzold. She's the CEO of the Hospitality Association of Namibia, about the impact these requirements could have on the tourism sector. I'm not going to put you on the political spot here, because it seems like it is a political argument, but coming back to the hard facts of tourism, what do you think the impact will be?
It's very difficult to say, because visas are not new to global travel. And that has been the argument that, we need visas as Namibians to travel to the EU, to USA, to almost everywhere in this world, except some of the Commonwealth countries. But even they have imposed even heavier restrictions on Namibians and all Africans to travel. So on that part, one can understand that, the call for reciprocity of our government is fully understandable. The problem is that, reciprocity talks about equal status, but the world isn't equal. And our concern within the tourism industry is the fact that we as a country depend on the tourism industry, and tourism is like water. It flows where there's least resistance. And if we add on doors that first need to be unlocked, and people have other destinations that they can go to without having to open doors, then we might just lose some of the people that we've now promoted Namibia to, that would say, if South Africa doesn't need us to have visas before we come there, we'll just continue going to South Africa. So that's a bit of a concern that we do have, especially for our lower end and middle market, where there is a tight budget in terms of the actual cost of the tourism packet, and also the fees. I mean, it's measurable, because if we compare what we as Namibians have to pay for the EU, the Schengen visa, then the Namibian visa, the intended one of 1,600 Namibia dollars, is less than 80 euros. It's less than what we have to pay. So that comparison is still fine. So we are not too concerned about the fact that visas are being imposed, but we are very anxious to hear that all systems will be in place for a very smooth transition, because the last thing we need is to have people queue up for 5-6 hours at the airport because the swipe machines don't work, or because the scanner doesn't work for people to show the QR code of online visas that they have applied for. So that is, I think, an even bigger concern that we have. And then there are some options that we have engaged with the Ministry of Home Affairs in terms of clarifying whether these visas that will be granted, whether there will be multiple entry visas, because remember that we are promoting transfrontier tourism. We want people to actually come to Namibia, but then hop off to Zambia or Zimbabwe, go look at the Victoria Falls, but come back to Namibia and can continue their road. If they only have a single entry visa, they will not come back. They will keep on doing their tours in the other SADC countries, and that's going to be sort of a restricting figure on our tourism base. So multi-entry visas, and then also we're currently looking at growing the cruise liner industry. We see a lot of interest from international cruise line industry stopping off at Walvis Bay and Lüderitz for people to actually spend a couple of hours in Namibia, and whether they would also then have to fork out 1,600 Namibia dollars for the 2-3 hours that they spend in country. That also needs to be clarified. So there's a lot of clarity that is still needed to be sourced. But we have a couple of months still. The implementation date has been set at 1 April. So we have a couple of months, but we're very anxious to clear that, because you know that Namibia is a long-haul destination. People actually book in advance. And we unfortunately had some agents already inquire about the details, and when we could not provide these details to them, they said, well, okay, then we'll opt to go to rather to shift our tour to Botswana or South Africa for 2025, because we can't work on this unclear situation. And that is a bit of a worry for us at the moment.
Yes, I can imagine. I was rather surprised by the the amount of coverage this whole change got internationally in the media. I mean, even Deutsche Welle just yesterday once again did a video on it. And one of the headlines spoke about consternation around the uncertainty, etc., which is very, very sorry, because these are the kinds of things that are going out and will deter maybe people coming to Namibia.
Yeah, definitely, because there are already obstacles for traveling, and luckily Namibia doesn't have to deal with the political challenges that are out there that deter the free movement of people. But I've also spoken at length with some of the airline industry people when they were here for Aviadef, and the airline industry is also very nervous about visa regime in general, because they say it is a deterrent factor, and many of the ground handling staff, for instance, all over the world, not only Namibia, they do have challenges with the changing visa restrictions and visa regimes. Some of them don't even have the right infrastructure in terms of Wi-Fi or online internet access to be able to verify and scan all the different visa options that are out there. So airlines are nervous, because remember, they are liable to take home people that are not being allowed into a country. And, the last statement that was made by the Honorable Deputy Minister recently, where they said, well, our visa requirements will be, but not limited to, leaves open the possibility of our immigration officials to actually decide at whim what kind of requirements to ask for. And it could well be that people that then trust the system on visa on arrival will be declined, and then the airline will have to take back the people. So even South Africa has reached out to the Namibian authorities to say, but many of your people travel via South Africa to come to Namibia. Their first reaction would be for the airlines to then have to take the people from out of Namibia back to where they came from, and the last port of call would have been Johannesburg or Cape Town. So there are nervous moments at the moment in terms of how this all is going to roll out. And obviously, at the end of the day, maybe the soup is never being eaten as hot as it's cooked, but it would have been easier if we had not gone this way. Remember, since 2016, we as tourism industry have been working very closely with the Ministry of Home Affairs in terms of easing Namibia's visa regime, and huge strides were made in that regard. And even to the point of 2024 in March, the last statement was adding more countries on the list of visa on arrival potential for tourists to Namibia. And then we did this 180-degree turn. So for us all, it is a bit of a getting used to at the moment. And that after very difficult times of 3 years of battling to get Namibia back on road, is maybe the timing is an extra challenge.
E-Ticket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.na.
We're staying with tourism in Namibia. The industry, of course, very, very important to the Namibian economy. It might not contribute a lot to the gross domestic product, but it's a major employer in Namibia, and as such vital to the health of the economy. Gita Petzold, the CEO of the Hospitality Association of Namibia, tells us about the state of tourism currently in the country.
finished the last figures that we had produced for the month of June, and with that, obviously, the second quarter of 2024. The average room occupancy in 2024 stands at just under 50%, 49.41, which is 2% higher than 2019. So according to the tourism accommodation statistics, and I have to stress that, we are better than 2019. And yes, some would argue that it's because we work from a smaller base, that we have, some of the lodges or big hotels that have not quite opened up yet because they didn't open up their doors after the pandemic. But the statistics base on which HUN produces its statistics has stayed very stable for the last 10 years. So the same kind and the same type and the same numbers of HUN members from the hotel group, lodge group, and the rest of the different accommodation academies, they have always supplied me with statistics. So we're coming on an equal base. We're comparing apples with apples, as it were. So I can safely say that we are up 2% from 2019 and up something like 6% to last year even. What is particularly of note is that this year, the first quarter was very busy. So it seems that after our Christmas holiday, all the international tourists that we never had in that time of year stayed put, came to visit Namibia in numbers. We saw that at the coast, but also in our national parks. The second quarter has not been as vibrant yet, but we do see very healthy tourism returns. Mainly in the self-drive industry yet, and that's why tour operators would also claim that their business is not yet fully recovered. But we do have a lot of self-drivers, and they stay at accommodation establishments. So we in the hospitality industry, we talk about a growth and not a recovery anymore.
That is absolutely fantastic news, Geeta. Give us a little bit of an indication of the sentiment under the operators at the moment, because they went through a very hard time.
Yeah, and it seems as though the hard times are not quite over yet, because, it takes quite a long time to actually pay off debt, and everybody accumulated debt because basically for 2 years we were behind closed doors, and many people had, maybe just moved their reservations, but the income generation basically was stalled for 2 years, and people had to take out debt because operational costs continued. So in terms of occupancies and in terms of the volumes of tourists that come into our businesses, that is fully recovered, but people are still paying off bad debt of 2-3 years. So the tourism industry is not yet pumping money, as it were, and that's why very often there's at the moment also concern that the tourism industry or the tourism product is getting very expensive, both in terms of accommodation but also in terms of transport. We see that with national airlines, international airlines really increasing their prices for tickets. That has to do with rising costs for everything from the fuel to basic commodities that are all very essential to offering a tourism product. So the sentiment is still very cautiously optimistic, I would say, but it's still a very hard battle to actually make the product of the tourism industry work and appealing to both the national and the international guests, because we are being accused of having pumped up the rates. And, I would like to actually put in a word for the tourism industry. They are number crunchers. We are really looking at very consciously at costing. But we all know, even as basic private consumers and household consumers, we know what the operational costs are to run a small household. Now that just quadruples when you run even a bed and breakfast or a lodge, and never to talk about the big hotels that have rent to pay and bank loans to pay off, etc. So the sentiment is still a bit strained because they're coming from a difficult time and are still carrying some of the debt that they accrued in 2020 and 21. But very optimistic, I would say, because the interest in Namibia has been very positive. Namibia has really done well, even if we compare ourselves to the rest of Southern Africa and even some of the other international markets. It seems as though Namibia was able to recover very fast, and then that is reason enough for hope for our industry.
And you say that we're talking about growth in the sector. There's still some tough times sort of getting the numbers in the bank accounts right. In terms of employment, are we seeing a recovery there? Are the operators taking on more staff again?
Yes, there is an absolute demand for more staff, but I also have to say that operators are currently also looking at efficiency. And that's why for the last 1.5 years, we've been focusing on skills development, on producing the right caliber of people to actually service the tourism industry, because the staff costs in our industry is one of the biggest cost factors in the operational sphere. And we need to make sure that whoever we employ is very efficient and can actually do the job. So there's a very careful application of employment creation for people in tourism. We do need to make sure that whoever we take on as employee actually is beneficial to the industry. But having said that, the charm of tourism here in Namibia is still that we can employ people, not only those that have tourism degrees and tertiary education in this field, but also grassroots people who are then growing up in the industry, and that especially in remote areas that usually don't have many other opportunities for employment and income generation. So tourism is still very valuable and very aware of that responsibility for us to create opportunities and create employment. Also a charm, and that's what some of the operators, especially in the rural areas, are trying to promote even more, is to making the local communities aware of the potential that lies within independent consultancy, one would say here in the urban terms, but that you provide a service or a product that the tourism entity could then absorb into the bona fide commercial entity, be it the growth of vegetables that are then consumed at lodges, or laundry being made by the local community. Not to speak about the arts and crafts, that is very important for us as a tourism sector, because we do want to focus on authentic, homegrown, uniquely Namibian experience when we offer tourism. So, those kind of elements that add color to the picture of tourism are in the hands of the local communities, and they do not need to have formal employment from the establishments. They can actually provide themselves. So a bit of entrepreneurship is what we're really encouraging amongst the communities, that they can offer their services, be it in storytelling, dancing, but also crafts and laundry, and growth of products that can then really play a big role in the tourism product.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at enjoy.my.na.
We've come to the end of this week's Business 7 program. Thank you very much for keeping me company. I'll see you again next week, same time, same place. Until then, stay safe.